Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Hi, I'm Marta Abawaji, the head of community engagement at Springtide, and this is our final episode 11 in season 5 of the podcast. We've been listening to young people all across the country share their faith lives, the stories and experiences that have influenced the ways that they see the world and the ways they practice spirituality. Today's episode is a beautiful capstone to all of them that we've heard, coinciding with our brand new report, The State of Religion and Young People, 2021, Navigating Uncertainty. You can get that digital version for free on our website, springtideresearch.org, or the print version at an affordable rate on Amazon or our website. But like I said, today's episode is just this beautiful capstone to everything we've heard. It's with Josué, who is a Chicanx media curator in Los Angeles. They practice the Bahá'í faith, and they really seek to have love be the anchor in what connects them to Tao, the way, as well as different familial and community relationships that they highlight throughout their episode. Those relationships that have really shaped their sense of spirituality. To feel rooted, Josué looks to nature, movement, art, meditation, and connection with others. I really enjoyed listening to Josué, and I think you're going to as well.
Hi, I'm Josué Manuel. I use they, them pronouns and allow my family to use he, him pronouns. I am 25, Chicanx. I live in LA, otherwise known as the ancestral lands of the Tongva people. And as founder of On the Way Media, I really just love holding creative and mindful space for young folks and older folks to come together and connect around culture, media, and the different forms of love that we all individually and collectively want to spread. I'm personally connected to a few religions and faith practices. On a cellular level, Catholicism is a part of my life. It's been in my family for generations, and I'm not going to be shaking it off me anytime soon, and I'm very mindful and aware. But I've been very fortunate to have influences from the Baha'i faith, specifically the independent investigation of the truth, and the way or Tao flow has been very instrumental in helping me find ways and opportunities to ground and connect by just breathing and being one with everything that has come since the Big Bang, and knowing that we're all more or less stardust. But yeah, that's at the core of who I and what I believe in. I would say what keeps me connected to faith communities is love. At different times in my life and this journey, there's been dips of fear and anxiety and isolation and separation. But what keeps me coming back is the traditions, is the communions of, more than anything, the people I love and the people I love to spend time with. And most of them love to spend time with me. I do my best to enter my faith spaces with love, knowing that everyone around me has a very distinct and unique understanding of God, understanding of what's right and wrong. And we might not always fully agree, but by allowing love to really anchor us together and bring us together and connect, we're doing our very best to not just nourish each other, but nourish ourselves in the way that our cells love to connect and relate and feel supported and encouraged by others. A time I felt this abundance of faith, this like deep connection with the center of meaning was this weekend, actually. My grandma recently passed, and about 2 weeks ago, and she'd been visiting my dreams like 2 or 3 nights, I would say, in the past few weeks. And I told my tia, and my tia said, that usually means that they want you to pray for them. And I laughed internally because I was like, oh man, these Catholics and they're praying. But this weekend, I took the time to translate in Spanish the Lord's Prayer, El Padre Nuestro, from a patriarchal father to just a gender-neutral creator. And being able at the same time to pray for my grandmother and connect with her as I'm going through a very difficult and yet very intimate process of translating these prayers that I've recited for so long and everybody around me has recited for so long. And rather than reciting for reciting's sake, really connect to the words and ensure that I'm writing down what feels true to me and not just what I've been passed down or what I've received as the truth. It was a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget, and I'm very grateful for it. And I hope that others can experience what it is to ask a creator for forgiveness, as we forgive others, and just know that we're not alone in whatever it is that we're going through. The time that I felt my well was the emptiest was, and it's a bit of a blur, but somewhere between my sophomore and my junior year of college, in which I left everything I knew and had supported me my entire life and uprooted to upstate New York at Syracuse University. And I was really disconnected from all of the love in my life in various ways. I was far from my parents, my grandparents, my siblings. At the time, I was having a falling out with my significant other. And it was really the loudest and thankfully for me, one of the few, like once or twice, moments where I experienced suicidal thoughts. And luckily they were nothing more than thoughts, but it was a very scary time and a very dark place to have fallen and kind of receded into. And on top of all of it, I was not as emotionally literate as I am now, and I was also suppressing a lot of it at that time. I was abusing a lot of marijuana, and so I wasn't giving myself the time and the space to breathe and be with myself and listen and feel. So that was definitely right before I was introduced to Tao, and right before I was given a new language by which to connect and feel inspired to live a purposeful life.
Just a quick break to give a shout out. Springtide is able to offer this podcast because of donors who make our research and actionable insights possible. Hannah, a social worker, recently said, "Springtide provides excellent research into the lives of young people. practitioners and those who interact with young people should read the State of Religion in Young People 2020 and 2021 reports to better understand the needs and perspectives of those they serve. You can see more of our current findings on our website, springtideresearch.org, where you can also make your own tax-deductible donation with a variety of giving options. Now, back to the episode.
What feels sacred to me is smiling, for one. Breathing is another one. What feels sacred is love and truth, and specifically listening for truth. Allowing myself to be present in a space and to not get carried away with the thoughts that take me away or that have me anxiously thinking about the past or the future. But when I can really, really be present, that's the divine space where I know I'm connecting to a higher power. I know that I'm one with God. And I know that I'm receptive to the God in others. And I'm, in listening, able to see and hear and feel what it is that God has to say from the perspective of my neighbors, of my friends, of my cousins, of my siblings, my loved ones. So some of the things that I like to do or some of the activities that help me feel those connections are, calling my siblings. Anytime we get to heal or just kind of vent, release, and help each other with a grounding perspective is helpful. Spending time in nature, running, or any form of exercise. And honestly, any yoga or meditation in which I'm able to tune out distractions, being hyperactive and being a fan of media, tend to consume a lot and I'll just throw something in the background and, let me just watch another episode, or I'll just throw the album on and then, chill out with some yoga music after. But when I really, really allow myself that inner space and moments of silence, I feel connected to the divine within because I'm allowing myself to listen. The practices that help me feel rooted or the most like myself are really anything that encourages me or channels me or allows me to flow through my hyperactivity. Growing up with inattentive ADHD, it can get overwhelming to have so much stimulating my senses at all times, and where do I go? What do I do with this? And when I don't find anything to do with it turns into the worst of the worst. But when I can journal and just free write and don't limit yourself, don't stop, don't hesitate, just let it out, and we'll see if there's one good sentence out of this. But again, exercise, meditative time in nature is the best. But along those lines of channeling my hyperactivity, making art alone and in silence is really fruitful. Making art collaboratively is very spiritually nourishing. And in that sense, making film can be really powerful. Visual poetry and poetry in general, but that collaborative process of I can't do this alone, so I have to call in some homies to make this work is always a powerful experience, and definitely spiritual, and increasingly more spiritual as I allow it to and as I'm ready to receive. Some spaces that I seek out for centering myself are definitely spaces in nature. This weekend I was at Joshua Tree, and that was my first time at that national park. probably at a national park, maybe my second. But space in nature is huge. I stumbled upon the Bahá'í Faith Center through a podcast, but like then sought it out because I was looking for a space to be spiritual and connect with others in that way. And it was very fruitful in that regard. I'm always grateful, but often equally scared to enter rosaries with my family. So like spaces of prayer. They're usually physical, but with Zoom, they're increasingly just social spaces. And those are definitely spaces where in the repetition of it all, I can just flow and turn off my mind and allow myself to synchronize with people that I love in ways that, is a tradition and has been passed down for so long. But it can sometimes be scary when the imposter syndrome is like, are you going to get caught? Are you going to be revealed? But it's also a bit of the thrill and why I enjoy being, in those spaces, and why I often push myself to be in those spaces. There are many other fountains of faith that I tap into and learn from. Some of my greatest teachers outside of the Bible have been Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, The Voice of Knowledge, The Mastery of Love. Most recently, Eckhart Tolle and A New Earth. And just, again, any spiritual text that translates for a contemporary context or just a different perspective on the same things that folks have been talking about for generations, that, again, is centered on a love and is centered on presence, is huge. And along those lines, Chicano Batman as a band and the kind of medicinal music that they make has been pivotal to my awakening and also my healing journey. But I will also say that I've had the fortune and the pleasure to have had powerful spiritual leaders in my life, like my grandma and my grandpa who passed last year. And also recently, Takhil Sharma, otherwise known as Interfaith Man, them and I were co-workers at Brave New Films, and that period in my life was just very fruitful in knowing that there are other folks doing the work of social justice through an interfaith lens, and that right there is the intersection that fuels me, and knowing that I'm not alone is always just such a beautiful place to be. So any text, any leader that brings folks together in this critical, mindful, spiritual way, that's what I'm about. And increasingly so, if you can dispel white supremacy, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and just acknowledge these are viruses. I don't care to incriminate or discriminate against people. This isn't us versus them. This is us versus the problem. And as the work, and as I'm being introduced to other people doing the work, of not hating other people, but acknowledging what is at the root of all of this evil, and let's name it so that we can move on with our lives. Those are the places, those are the fountains that feed me, and that replenish me, and that allows me to come back in more sure and confident in myself and in the work that God has put us all to do, respectively. When I think about how my faith has evolved over time, I think about the fire of my faith and my spirituality. And it used to, growing up in a Catholic household as a kid, I learned the traditions and I learned the ways, and that flame was, up and about. And I remember before my confirmation, I was excited. I was like, can I do it this year? Let's go. Like, me and God were one. And then it was a little bit of Western Civ. It was a little bit of understanding the history of the Catholic Church and the modern present context of the Catholic Church. And more than anything, the questions that started arising weakened and dampened my faith. But I always knew that there was a God. I knew that there's something greater. I just, for a long time, that flame was almost silent, and I didn't pay attention to it. And that's when I was more or less losing my way and going into my valley, my dark moment in life. But again, with a new language, with Don Miguel Ruiz, with Tao, and knowing that the way or the flow of life connects all living things, just connected me spiritually to myself and to all living things. And really, that's more or less where I am now. It's a fire that's been flowing through time, and I'm still learning and growing and looking for ways to practice more regularly and to bring in some of the traditions and the practices that my mom and my grandma have, and my grandparents, my family has tried to pass on to me. I'm trying to really discern for myself, what of this can I take with me to help nourish my spiritual journey? And where are the specific things that for my well-being and for my growth, I need to start cutting out because it's not serving me? Yeah.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to download our latest report, The State of Religion and Young People 2021, Navigating Uncertainty. Thanks to a very generous donation, the digital version of this report is free to download. Springtide Research Institute is supported by donors who believe in the critical research and insight-generating work we do on behalf of young people. Make your own tax-deductible donation with a variety of giving options on our website today. Today's show was produced by Marta Abuaji and TJ Birnbaum, with original music by high school student Christian Unthank. Special thanks to the 10 guests featured on Season 5 and to all the young people whose voices and perspectives make our research possible. Follow us on social media at We Are Springtide and interact with a variety of resources connected to the 2021 report with the hashtag Religion and Young People 2021. Thanks for listening.